Dragon's Dogma 2. Boy, am I excited to talk about this game. There is a lot to unpack here. I've played almost 100 hours of the game, given 10 of that is probably in the character creator. And from the title of this video, everything wrong with Dragon's Dogma 2. You probably think I hate this game, which would also be wrong. The original title for this video was Why Dragon's Dogma 2 Sucks, but also kind of rules. But then General Sam's video came out called This Is What Makes Dragon's Dogma 2 Suck, and I feel like he kind of claimed dibs on suck, and now I'm kind of wondering if we're 7 seconds into this video because I'm saying suck a lot, and I wonder if YouTube is thinking I'm saying fuck. The weird thing about Dragon's Dogma 2 is even with all the problems that we're going to talk about today, I still actually liked Dragon's Dogma 2. And that's actually kind of the most frustrating part. I liked it. I didn't love it, and I have a feeling that most of the people that are going to play the game are just going to like it. Keywords there being play the game because it kind of depends on if you can get the game to run properly on your PC. But regardless, this game had the capacity to be an outstanding game that the majority loved, but with all the baffling decisions that the game developers made, in my eyes, I think it failed to do so. This is everything wrong with Dragon's Dogma 2. That other title would have hit so much harder. Damn you, Sam. Before we dive in, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, Opera GX. Does your browser have zero personality? Then let me introduce you to Opera GX, a browser that's built for gamers that's oozing with creative potential. Have you ever felt like your 87 tabs of YouTube videos might be having an effect on your gaming? Opera GX can limit how much RAM, CPU, and network usage the browser takes up, and that could save you from making a fumble on your next clutch play. Opera GX is fully customizable and even now has mods created by some of your favorite content creators, like me. Hopefully I'm one of your favorite. I don't have to be. The Jack Sather mod, that's Sather, not Sather, has its own background music that's playing right now. It has its own opening and closing tab sounds featuring some classics from the channel. Sorry. Its own keyboard sounds, and I also created some custom-made Sather's Arcade wallpapers for the browser. You can disable and enable certain parts of the mods and adjust their volume, but you can also mix and match from other mods. So like our Lord and Savior, Nakey Jakey, has his own mod. So you can take his keyboard shortcuts and combine that with my opening and closing tab fart sounds and make your browser just an absolute powerhouse of entertainment. You might be worried that you're gonna lose all your bookmarks and your cookies and your browsing history. Okay, maybe you can leave that behind if you were to switch over to Opera GX. But Opera GX has a one-click solution to take all that data over to your new browser instantly. And there's so much more that Opera GX has to offer. I mean, they have games inside the browser. They have the Opera GX Corner, which is actually really useful, showing what games are going on sale, what games are now free, and most importantly, a release calendar for upcoming games that are coming out, like Ghost of Tsushima finally coming to PC May 16th. I can't wait. And you know what else can't wait? Downloading Opera GX today. It's completely free. Set it up as your default browser and make sure to use my link in the description. That's operagx.gg/JackSather. Thank you, Opera GX, for supporting my channel. Now, back to the video. Okay, so I want to say spoiler alert for this video, but I want to talk about the whole game. And frankly, I don't think there's anything to spoil in this game, and you'll see why. But just in case, if we get into spoiler territory, I'll let you know. If you don't know what Dragon's Dogma 2 is, it's the newest open world fantasy RPG from Capcom. They're the guys that made Monster Hunter and Devil May Cry.
But I'm not your enemy. I'm not your enemy.
In this game, you play as the Arisen, a person whose heart is ripped out and eaten by a dragon. I see you've met my ex-wife. The Arisen has the power to command human-like beings called pawns, which we'll get into. They basically aid you on your quest to find and kill the dragon that ripped your heart out. You might have also noticed that Dragon's Dogma 2 is a sequel. Its last game came out 12 years ago, and if you're wondering if you need to get caught up to play the second game, there's no need because the second game is the same exact story as the first game. That's not an exaggeration. You play as the Arisen, your heart gets ripped out and eaten by a dragon, and you have the power to command pawns on your quest to find and kill that dragon. Good? Great. I played a little bit of the first game, but then I ended up watching a playthrough to get caught up with the story whenever the Dragon's Dogma 2 trailers dropped, which got me really stoked for the sequel. The graphics looked insanely upgraded, the combat looked punchy and satisfying, the world looked realistic and not just environment, like with your armors and weapons, which I thought was kind of unusual for a Capcom game. And their games are usually fighting with like cartoon-sized weapons like SpongeBob and Patrick fighting over who Dirty Dan is, which I personally abhor. And the thing that got me the most fired up about Dragon's Dogma is seeing those Shadow of Colossus-like elements where you jump onto giant monsters to take them down. Besides some scuffed-looking lip sync that I saw in multiple clips,
I see you desire one of my masterpieces.
I was sold. And then the game came out to a catastrophic release, which is just par for the course for any game that I look forward to nowadays. Love that trend. And I can't stress this enough, this catastrophe could have been so easily avoided for Dragon's Dogma 2. And I really do want to talk about the game here, so I'm going to make this whole section as fast as I can. Here's the 3 major issues of the release. Number 1, they took a page out of Ubisoft's cursed handbook and put microtransactions in a single-player game, which is such a tone-deaf choice. How can you be a game designer and not know that this is going to get your game set on fire online? The weird thing about this is all these microtransactions are easily attainable in-game. Like $3 for a camping kit, they're all over the place. And you know what they all have in common? They're cheap. I think the majority of the hate that came to them on release was because of this, this, and it was all for what? A couple extra bucks on the back end? Do you realize how many people didn't buy your $70 game because it has mixed reviews on Steam because of your $1 microtransactions? That being said, I actually do agree with Asmongold's opinion on some of the microtransactions in game.
So the microtransactions is like, it's obviously bad. There's nothing good about it. There's no upside for the player. There's nothing that's positive that is in any capacity related to it. It's just 100% bad. Now, does it ruin the game? No, it does not ruin the game. It doesn't really make a big difference. It doesn't really matter a lot.
Yeah, it didn't ruin the game. It didn't affect my gameplay whatsoever. I just can't believe that Capcom would shoot itself in the foot like this. Number 2 was that the game launched with some crucial mechanics missing, aka there was no new game button, which I find extremely bizarre for a game that has such a strong character creator. Yes, there is an item in the game that you can purchase to switch your character's appearance, but it's kind of expensive early on, and when the game first launched, it only had 2 uses, so you can only switch your appearance and your main pawn's appearance one time before you were out of uses. Then you would have to buy the $2 microtransaction. There's still a problem there though. Let's say you did what I did, which was I made my character a beastren first. This item can't change you back to a human, and there's no new game button. So I just want to ask the game director, what were you supposed to do there? Like make another Steam account and buy the game again? Just so you're not a f***ing cat? A couple days in, they updated the game to include a new game feature, and they made the item that changes your character appearance have 99 uses. Which, you know, good job. I'm glad you listened to your community, but man, what an oversight. I mean, no new game feature? What are you, f***ing retarded? Number 3 is an issue that I honestly don't know how easy of a fix this is in their engine, but the game is drastically unoptimized. Little nerd here talk real quick. I have a 4070 Ti, an i7-13700K i7 processor, and 64 gigabytes of RAM. And I also play games at a 2K resolution. Most new games that come out today that look even better than Dragon's Dogma 2, in my opinion, I get more than 100 frames on high or max settings. In Dragon's Dogma 2, I'd say I averaged 40 frames a second the entire game. Now, there's nuance there, which is out in the wilderness, I mainly got 60 frames a second, which isn't killing me. I'm not like a die-hard 120 frames guy. What did kill me is anytime you go into a town in this game, it would drop consistently below 20 frames a second. That was killing me. I don't know entirely what's going wrong. I've heard that it's the CPU is being utilized more than the GPU, but I've also heard your performance is tied to how many NPCs are on screen, which I think is painfully hilarious because one of the main components of this game is bringing around 3 NPCs with you everywhere you go. That's like making a first-person shooter where you lose frames the more magazines you have. Also, this game isn't exactly state-of-the-art when it comes to towns and cities. It's not like thousands of people walking around. It's like 15 in your general vicinity most of the time, and most of the time you can see them fade in and out of existence right in front of your eyes, right in your walking path. This game has a few graphical bugs that are pretty rough, like around the grass and the water. I don't know what artifacting is going on here, but I know that they need to fix it in order for me to stay immersed in their world. I just think all these problems are so blatantly obvious. Like, who tested your game? Was it not clear as day that this game is not ready for release? And with the first 2 problems, it's like, Capcom, it's 2024. Wake up, you dolt. Okay, so that's the release. Now let's talk about the actual game. And we can start on a positive note. Their character creator is fantastic. And if you don't know me, I'm a sucker for a good character creator. There's so many tools, it goes so in depth, and there's a lot of subtly important things here. Like, I love when a game has hair physics, not just on long hair. There's short hair physics in this one too. They also have some hairstyles I've never seen before. I'm just gonna call this one the Super Saiyan 3. There's a ton of tattoos and scars. You can put them all over your body. There's an in-depth eye color customization. I tried to get my eyes to be as blue as they are in real life. It's a tough task. I couldn't get there, but we got close. You can change your teeth, and I don't mean like making them gold or adding grills like in Cyberpunk. I mean you can select how many tooths are actually in your head, like how much skooma is your character smoking. I do think it's kind of a random feature to include in this game, a game where your character does not speak or open his mouth, but I'd say the best feature in the character creator, something I totally almost missed, was how you can change your character's walk and posture. This feature can tell such a story of your character, like is he a brave, bold knight, or is he a decrepit sorcerer that casts spells from ancient tomes? Sorry for the voice. After a brief, I'm not kidding, 3 hours, I was finished with my character. And then I was released out into the open world. I ran down the road, fought some goblins, got to my first little village, went up to a rock, and was sent right back into the character creator to create my main pawn. So another hour and a half later, I was released back into the open world. One thing I hate about the character creator, and this is specifically for the pawns, is your voice choices. I hate when games give you the illusion of a bunch of different voices you can choose from, but really what they're doing is they hired 4 different voice actors and just twisted the pitch up and down on the voices.
The people here are evacuated. The people here are evacuated.
And it makes so many pawns' voices so bad.
I'm sure we'll find a purpose for it in due time. We could make the fruit reborn, not like a feast to get you ready for bed. I've got wares of every ilk.
Bro, is this guy like Chocolate Rain?
Developers, stop using this feature in your game. Yes, it might make the voices sound deeper, but it also makes them sound like they're talking in slow motion.
Yes, master, how can I serve you?
It's fucking weird.
And I also made the oversight of once I made Dante, I gave him a voice that I ended up hating, dude.
We've earned ourselves a pat on the back.
Overconfidence is an enemy in and of itself. Let us instead strive to better ourselves with every battle.
Yeah, I really wish I gave Dante a different personality. He's like the teacher's pet. That's so annoying. We should actually learn to not have too much confidence, but to better ourselves every day.
Speaking of pawns, this is where the trouble begins. Like I said earlier, it's a main component to the game. Pawns come into your world through a rift stone and aid the Arisen on their quest. They serve you day and night, they follow every one of your commands, and they do it all free of charge. They're not like they're not like that. It's not like that. You get the ability to create your main pawn, who's basically your partner through the game. I made my pawn Dante, who is basically our mage most of the game.
What's up, Pipsqueak?
If you go to the Riftstone, you can hire 2 more pawns, and it connects you online to other players' games, and you hire their main pawn. In the Riftstone, most of the time, it's an absolute freak show.
What is this, dude?
I see you recognize my worth, Arisen. I suppose I should consider myself honored.
Nigel.
I see not even the Arisen could resist my charms.
I shall be proud to serve.
Very well.
Aid your cause.
Trade?
Take me as your shield, Arisen.
Some people have these as their main sidekicks. That's crazy.
In a way, other players are trying to get you to use their pawns because they get paid RC in the game. So characters are usually trying to make you laugh.
I shall be proud to serve you.
That's my favorite one I've seen. That's so bad looking.
Make you hard.
Why do they do this, dude? This is so funny though. There's a lot of guys doing this, where they take off the pants.
I shall lend you my aid.
A famous character.
Discipline your company lacks.
That is amazing. Is that Gandalf? It is Gandalf.
Or in very rare cases, just a regular guy. I ended up hiring a couple of these homunculuses, talking about you, Puberty and Withered.
I am confident and may act independently.
I want him. Sign him. This guy's name is Puberty. Pubes. Welcome to the team.
Shall we discuss tactics now or later?
But we hired you as a joke.
And they were awesome. And there's part of me that kind of wishes I got to continue using them throughout the game. But you and your main pawn level up, while the ones that you hired don't. So as you progress through the game, you have to continually swap them out for new pawns, which is a cool idea. It gives you multiple opportunities to switch up the group dynamic, whether it's the class, the armor, or the personalities. It was just kind of sad when I had to say goodbye to somebody like Puberty, where I fired him and gave him a severance twig and sent him on his way.
I dare say, I've accomplished a few feats to be proud of at least.
Sure. I kind of wish him or Granny could have joined me on the rest of my adventure. Here's a big issue with the pawns. Their personalities are dog shit. Your pawns repeat themselves all the goddamn time.
You're like to grow overburdened if you keep picking up every little trinket you find. You're like to grow overburdened if you keep picking up every little
We are none of us alike. We've much to be getting on with.
We've much to be getting on with.
Cannot expect
treasures round every corner. I'll collect that. One might confidently call that a resounding victory. Overconfidence is an enemy in and of itself. Overconfidence is an enemy in and of itself.
That was well fought.
Overconfidence is an enemy in and of itself. This is generally used as a material.
This is generally used as a material.
We'll find a purpose for it in
I'm
due
sure
time.
we'll find a purpose for it. You're like to grow overburdened if you keep picking up every little trinket you
Hey,
find.
Puberty, if you tell me that one more goddamn time, you're off the fucking team.
Their dialogue is also brutally uninteresting.
I'll carefully conserve my strength and endeavor to survive every battle by way of sound strategy and defensive tactics.
He's all business. Dante's all business. That's one thing you gotta know about him.
Good sleep is the key to a good adventure.
A lot of the time, the lines just don't make any sense either.
You would gather materials here, Monster. Can we really afford to carry more?
Can we? Everyone's light.
And sometimes they talk too much and just annoy the shit out of you.
There's stairs. How can you not fucking walk up them?
Oh, I don't know about you, Master, but I'm worn out. Mightn't we have a rest?
Hey,
before
Tiberius,
pressing on?
how about you fucking shut your mouth?
Maybe I should go left, sir.
Maybe you should shut up.
Ryben, base of fire.
And the worst part is, they just seem like a robot. They don't grow or change or adapt. You could complete all the quests in the game and their personality would still be the same as when you started the game. There was one time in my 95 hours of playing the game where I thought there was actually a pretty decent line between 2 pawns.
Come to think of it, have you always pursued your current vocation in your service to the Arisen?
Well, there was a time I served our master as a mage. I can scarce believe how far I've come since then.
That was like the first good line of dialogue I've seen so far from the NPCs. And then, no lie, 2 minutes later, you know what he said?
Well, there was a time I served our master as a mage.
There's an interview I saw that's only 2 months old with the game director Hideki Itsunu, and I'm looking in the comments and it's nothing but support for this guy in there. And hey, I like the guy, he seems really ambitious about his game. Him and his team have clearly worked hard on the game, and there is a lot of good stuff in the game and we'll get to that. But he also kind of No Man's Sky overpromises here quite a bit. Like he talks about stuff that is definitely not in his game. He talks about these NPCs like they have lives outside of the player's world, which they totally don't. Itsunu says that we wanted characters who live in the world and act according to their goals. We wanted them to make decisions for themselves. Bro, what decisions? What goals? There's no goals here. This isn't like the camp in Red Dead Redemption 2. These people don't have hours and hours of dialogue of interesting things to say. All the NPCs in the game are just like the lowest tier of AI. When you're in town and you pull out your weapons, everybody freaks out, including the people that are selling weapons. There's also a really weird thing that he says in this video. It might be a translation issue, but it's this.
仲良くなったキャラクターはうちに遊びに来たりするんですけども、うちに来た時にそのキャラクター同士が鉢合わせしたりすると喧嘩になるかもしれませんね。で、僕らとしてはやめて、僕のために喧嘩しないでって。
Somebody might come over to your house to play? What the fuck game do you think you made? This isn't The Sims 2. I'm a 47-year-old adventurer that comes home once every 2 weeks to sleep for 2 seconds and then go back out on the road. Who's coming over to my house to play? And this whole situation where he talks about two characters fighting over their love for you,
僕のために。
this never happens, and I don't even think can happen. I tried to find gameplay of anybody experiencing this online and found nothing. Here's the last thing I'll say about the pawn system. Why does this game not have optional co-op? Here's another game with a companion system, perfectly fit to have your AI be switched out with one of your real life friends and it would change literally nothing except you could experience it with your friend now. Why? In this interview, Itsunu even says that he was inspired to make the pawn system from playing online with his friends. But the thing with online play was that your friends would have to meet up at the same time, and sometimes your friend would have to go to the bathroom for a couple minutes. So to negate these minor inconveniences, what if we made a game where your friends create characters that you can use as AI companions? That way, it'll make you feel like you're playing with your friends all the time. Here's the kicker. No, it f***ing does not. You know what it feels a lot like? Like I'm playing with AI. We haven't talked about the combat yet, but co-op in the combat could have been so cool, like fighting a Cyclops and your friend puts up his shield so he can spring jump you up onto the Cyclops and you can stab it in the eye and take it down. That would have been so sick, but instead you can't command your pawns to do moves, so you just have to wait for them to like randomly do the spring jump thing, which my guy had the ability and he never did. There's also times where you'll find like a door that only an archer can shoot open and you can't command your pawn to do it, but you know who would have been able to do that? A human being. I don't know, it's probably a stupid idea. Probably a stupid idea that would incentivize people to buy the game in groups and sell you more copies, but that's not worth investing in. All right, now let's talk about something good here. This game does exploration incredibly well. You are constantly rewarded in this game for going off the beaten path and finding treasure left and right. There's tons of groups of monsters and men just roaming around the world. I love the character movement in this game. This is a weirdly specific thing, but I really love the run in this game. It's like the perfect speed and animation cycle. Some games kind of do this weirdly, like Breath of the Wild, Link's sprint is so spastic, but I kind of like it for that game. But in some games, it can feel really slow, like a Torrent's Walk in World of Warcraft. There's also a lot of climbing in this game, not just on enemies, but just like climbing up the earth around you. And it's really sweet how you can combine that in your combat. Like one of my favorite moments in the game was seeing a harpy fly around, and I was a thief, a melee class, so I couldn't shoot it down. But I found a ledge and just made a leap of faith onto the harpy and grabbed onto it. I got one. Oh my gosh, it worked. Just like dragged this thing to the ground. Took it down and slaughtered it with my friends. That discovery was one of the sickest I've had in game. When the game's logic just allows you to pull off something super badass, that is just... One thing I also love about the movement is the fact that you can like grab things, you can grab explosive barrels, but you can also grab people. And I just love tossing people, especially when it's into the water and they get eaten by the low frame rate water aliens. We'll get to that. I will say the controls are pretty clunky. Like RB was their choice to shoot the arrow, not right trigger like literally every game in the world. And I don't know whose job it was to make the controls, but whoever made the decision to make the examine button, which is another word for loot, they have a lot of weird word choices in this game. Whoever made the button for examine and sprint the same button, you should be fired. So if you're not directly over the loot, when you hit B, you'll sprint past it. Talking about the weird word choice, by the way, like when you're in conversation with somebody, instead of saying leave conversation at the bottom, it'll say cancel. I cancel this conversation. And sometimes people will be talking to you and they don't offer you anything, but it'll say decline offering. I also weirdly like in the game, when you take consistent damage, you start to lose your total health bar. Ow. And in order to get it back, you have to rest at camp or sleep at an inn. And I kind of love this for an adventure game when you have to take a beat, slow down, camp with your squad, and all gather around a fire to cook a real life 720p video of a steak.
What? It just shows stock footage of a meal. What a choice.
They actually put this into their video game. It's like in SpongeBob when they all go out of the ocean and they all turn into fish on sticks. It's very bizarre. There's a few style choices in this game that just make no sense to me. The old English that's so weirdly cobbled together.
Mayhap you'll recall aught of import there.
What? And there's also film grain on flashback scenes. Like, what, did they have a medieval camera back then? I don't know. There is a thing about the world that's kind of weird, and that's the activities that you can do. But the thing with the activities is they're useless. You can buy a round of beer for 2,000 gold and get a 4-second cutscene. That was cool. No buff or anything. You can go to the spa, hang out with some old naked guys, no benefit. You can give donations to the poor, nothing changes. You can have your fortune told for 50 gold, nothing is revealed. There's wildlife in the game, but they barely react to the player. A haircut costs 10,000 gold, and you can have sex in this game for 20,000 gold.
I'll take this one.
No.
And that gets you this 6-second sex scene, and I can show it in its entirety without getting demonetized.
Yeah, look, they're like fully clothed, or not fully clothed, but you know what I mean. I think it's gonna be like literally like nothing. Are you serious?
Hope I ne'er see that wretched patron again.
Wow, and she insulted the shit out of me.
No bonuses, no buffs, no effects, and no orgasm. It's crazy. Why did you add any of this shit into the game? There's a couple different biomes. It's mainly forest and canyon in the game. And I will say there is a sweet Elden Ring-like reveal when you finally get to the desert part of the map. But you know what would have made this reveal way better? If there was any fucking music in the game. Like, you don't constantly need to be playing music, but when you get to the desert, it's just like wind. Like, how much more badass would this be if you had like the finale track of Game of Thrones playing? If you told me that they got all the battle music from this game off of Epidemic Sound, I would have believed you. And I have a feeling that some people are actually gonna try to defend the music in this game. And if you're gonna do that, real quick, hum me the theme of Dragon's Dogma 2. Check and mate. Now let me touch on maybe the strongest part of Dragon's Dogma, which is the combat. This game's combat is just fun. There's a great sense of progression, there's a great sense of power gained, there's a bunch of different classes to try out, and the game actually encourages you to try out multiple vocations. Vocations are classes in the game. And here's one thing I'll say right off the bat, which might confuse some people. I think they should have unlocked all the vocations from the start. Hear me out. This game does an atrocious job of how you gain new vocations. I'll give you an example. The Mystic Spearhand is one of the coolest classes in the game. You basically become a medieval Darth Maul Jedi, and the way you get it is you go and talk to this guy and you know the Force. That's it.
I'll thank you to keep your distance.
Oh, I just needed to say hi.
None of them have cool quests, and here's the biggest issue. I didn't unlock 2 of these vocations until after I beat the game. And the reason is because you don't get to the island where you can unlock these vocations until organically at the end of the game. And I know that there's a way to like cheese your way onto the island early, but I didn't do that. And I just think this is such a weird choice from a game developer standpoint. Like, imagining making a full class that you have pride in, all of the abilities and passives, and then implementing it into the game where a large portion of your player base is never going to experience it. So if you're not going to put any effort into the journey of unlocking these vocations, then just unlock them from the start. There's also 10 classes, and for some reason your pawns can only use 6 of them, and I truly don't understand why they can't use the other 4 besides like laziness from the developers. So let's jump into these classes. You got the fighter, which is your classic soldier with a sword and shield. This class, you'll feel the awesome impacts that Dragon's Dogma 2 has to offer, just shield bashing people off of ledges, fighting up close and personal. They also get this awesome move that's like an impale move where you just stab your enemy over and over and over again like you're freaking Batman.
I'm vengeance.
The mage is a combination of a destructive and healing spellcaster, where they have the typical elemental moves like a giant flamethrower, they can call down lightning, they can cast a huge blizzard, but they can also heal the team and enchant their weapons. The way you aim as a mage is also same as an archer, where you kind of like go over the shoulder. I had Dante mainly play this class because I could choose his abilities that he uses, so I had the proper heals and enchantments to my weapons. You also unlock cool passes with each vocation, like mages get a levitate if you hold A. The archer is pretty cool. It felt a little weak compared to the other classes, but I could totally be wrong here. All of the abilities of the archer look really cool. And the archer also made me realize that your movement affects your attacks as well. So if you're sprinting and hit X as the archer, you'll slide on the ground and shoot like a powerful arrow. It can look really sick in combat. You also have a really powerful arrow that you have to time right to get its max benefit. You also have a rapid fire arrow that you can shoot and you'll feel just like Legolas. It's awesome. The thief class is the class I played the most. Kind of surprisingly, because I don't always play as like a rogue character and stuff in games, but I was drawn to this class because I had a feeling that it was going to be the class that climbed the most onto enemies and stabbed them over and over. There's this really sick move called like Gore It Up, where you stab a large enemy and like really dig your knife in and slash it out, and it does a massive amount of damage. I had so much fun as a thief. They attack really quick. Their Y is a quick execute. You're just constantly jumping on enemies and stabbing them. It's fantastic. Those are the main 4 classes. The next one that you have is the sorcerer, which is basically like the mage, but they have no healing spells and they have a few more destructive spells. One of them is really good. It puts like an elemental ball on an enemy, and the more your friends attack it, the higher damage it'll burst onto the enemy. You can kill big enemies ridiculously fast like this. I killed a griffin in like less than a minute when my sorcerer used this ability. The next I have a feeling is a favorite among a lot of players, which is the warrior. The warrior uses a 2-handed weapon and they attack very slow, but they put out a ton of damage when they strike. You can just blast through enemies like you're a Goliath with a 2-handed sword. It's very satisfying in a lot of ways, and once you unlock its passives, it becomes a juggernaut of damage. The next class is called the trickster. And you might be thinking, is this some kind of like shadowy phantom damage take on the thief? Boy, I wish it was. The trickster I was so excited to get because I had never seen a class in a video game that looked like it. It's very Middle Eastern looking. I love the outfits and the weapon choice. I really wanted to like this class, but it just sucks. What do I do? I don't know how to use this guy. It's basically the pacifist class. So you raise a spirit that enemies can attack, and you use your smoke to like boost your allies and also damage them. And as far as your attacks go, you can use the smoke canister to hit an enemy, but it's basically the equivalent to an old lady just hitting him with a handbag. I wish they had added some cool attacks to this character, like an Alawi move that could like pull the spirit out of an enemy and your allies attack that and it deals bonus damage to the enemy. Or maybe some sort of like smoke choke soul drain move. I don't know, just something like that. The next 2 classes are the ones that I didn't get to use until after I beat the game, and honestly, after I beat the game, I didn't really want to play the game anymore, but I got them anyway. So you have the magic archer, which if you can guess, it's basically the mage plus the archer combined. And you shoot magic arrows. It has a lot of cool abilities. I didn't really play a lot of this class, so it looks generally cool. It gets a thumbs up from me. And the last class I actually did experiment with, which is the warfare. This is what I would call the classless vocation, because it allows you to use any abilities from your other vocations that you've learned. The only catch is one of your ability slots is taken by the rearmament move to switch between the weapons to use the certain abilities. I decided to combine a mystic spear hand and a warrior class, and that dealt plenty of damage, and I really liked the outcome. It's the coolest class in the game by a long shot. I know we all want to deny it. I'm a thief main. I want to deny it. It's clearly the coolest class. You basically have a force jump stab. You can teleport above your enemies and strike down. And you have an ability in your right hand. If you charge it up, you can shoot it at a group of enemies and slow them all down. Just everything about this class. The movement too is just so sick. Play it. It's super powerful. You'll feel awesome. It's really fun. Things are very satisfying with the combat in the game. The only qualm I have is it gets really messy, especially with having 3 other teammates. The effects are big, the blood effects are big. A lot of the times you lose your character in the madness, especially when you're like grabbing onto something and being flinged around. On a positive note, after battles, a lot of the time, you get a high five from your teammates, and that's really cool. One thing I will say about the combat is there's not a ton of creature variety, which I'm very surprised by, because while looking at a lot of the Dragon's Dogma 1 footage, I realized most of the creatures in Dragon's Dogma 2 are in Dragon's Dogma 1 and barely different looking. And I wasn't a diehard Dragon's Dogma 1 player, and I wonder if you guys are Dragon's Dogma 1 players out there, were you disappointed by the fact that like you're just kind of fighting the same enemies again? Like, I feel like I would have been bummed if that was the case. I know the game had 12 years to make, but I think it was only really in development for like 5 of those years. But I don't know, I would expect a little bit more variety. The last thing I want to mention before we talk about the story is the user interface, and I know it's not the sexiest subject, so we'll get through it pretty quick. I don't understand Japan. Sometimes. Japan puts out some of the coolest cutting edge design stuff, whether it's cars or fashion or photography, art, whatever it is. But when it comes to video game user interface, they have just been stuck in like 2003. Like any FromSoft, Dark Souls, Elden Ring, terrible user interface. Death Stranding, terrible user interface. It might look flashy, but it's not good. It's not intuitive. It's not functional. Is Nintendo the only company that can get this part right? Dogma 2's is atrocious. So I gotta go back in the menu because I gotta go unequip this, then I go out of that menu, then I go talk to him again, skip this dialogue, organize, deposit, put this cape in, go out, go to withdrawal, let me go get another cape, it's all the way over here, sorry I'm losing frames, I'm going through these menus too fast, can't equip it from there, Jesus, alright, get out of that menu, cancel, skip to that text, okay, I go back into my menu, let's give it a second. And then go here, equip. Now I look cool. Why do I have to spend hours in your good games in your f***ing inventories? And why, God why, I have the auto hide function on my user interface, but unless I'm standing completely still, does it ever disappear? Why do you have to have every little widget on screen completely spelled out with its text at all times? Let me see your beautiful world. It's not that hard, cut the fat. You don't have to like have everything look super intricately designed to match the theme of the medieval game. It's like, no, just give me simple UI. It's like good CGI. It's working well when you don't notice it. And it's not just Japanese developers that have bad UI, it's just a trend that I see in a lot of their game. Like the Attack on Titan game I played sometime last year that had terrible UI. Fire Emblem is still stuck with their terrible UI. It's just, there's a lot that needs to be updated there. Okay, so now let's talk about the story. Where to begin? And I kind of wonder if the Dragon's Dogma 2 developers knew where to begin, because I don't think they made up their mind. There's like 3 false starts to this game. And the first time I played the game, I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Oh, is this me?
And also, in those first 3 false starts, you don't meet a single main character, which is the first critical problem with the story of Dragon's Dogma 2. There are no main characters. It's crazy. In my personal experience, I'm not kidding, I had to Google every single character name for this video. And if you think it's because I didn't pay attention enough in the game, that's partially true, but why didn't I? Because they didn't matter. This game suffers from 3 main things. Number 1, there are no main characters in this game. Number 2 is the story suffers from people being at the right place at the perfect time. And number 3 is that there is missing context for almost everything in this game. That means lore, that means logic, that means character motivations, all of it. Most of it isn't there. Let me just give you a brief telling of the introduction. The game starts with what seems to be you being king, and then you pass out, and then you wake up in a desert prison cell. You meet a guy named Rook, a Medusa shows up, a ghost shows up, it sends you a griffin, you and Rook escape on the griffin. As you're over a forest, a woman shoots a giant crossbow at the griffin, and it kills it, and you crash land and pass out. When you wake up, your friend Rook is being eaten by low frame rate water aliens. Sidebar, that's called the brine apparently. There's not much lore to this, I've looked into it. Let's read between the lines here. It's definitely just an excuse to avoid making a swimming mechanic. Anyway, Rook says, don't worry, we'll see each other again. We don't. Knights instantly appear where you land. They take you to their outpost. As you walk up, instantly all of these pawns are like pouring out of the gate. You also don't know that they're pawns at the moment. I thought these would be main characters. You never see them again, and you never see these knights again after the camp. One of these knights with crazy eye contact, another sidebar. The eye contact, faces, and lip sync that characters make in this game are insane. He says I have no memories of how I got to where I am. He says it because my character can't speak. He says, how about you go to the last town that the dragon attacked and maybe that'll jog your memory. You go to the town and what do you know? You start having memories and the visions of how you became the Arisen. And at the perfect time, the woman that shot down the griffin is walking by as you're having these visions. And after the visions, you wake up in her house with her, with your attempted murderer. I'm not kidding. At this part in the story, I really did think this woman was my enemy. Not only is she not my enemy, there's like some weird sexual tension in this room.
This is the second time I've watched over you like this. Isn't it?
The chemistry is palpable.
It could also be tension from the fact that this woman shot me 1,000 feet out of the sky and expected me to live. Right here, you also get the classic like over the shoulder hero look of like, I'll see you on the flip side, sweetheart. And then she gently says this damsel line, good luck, Arisen. Like, was that supposed to mean something? I don't know who this woman is. Also, the editing and pacing of the story is so weird. There wasn't any scene of me actually passing out. I just have visions and then wake up in her bedroom. And then when I leave her house, I'm immediately just talking to a group of men. Also, Capcom developers, I wouldn't make this guy Sir Gregor look exactly like a later on villain in the game. Make him a little bit more indistinguishable. These guys take me to the city of Vermund because they've heard rumblings that a new Arisen has appeared, and that's me. But the problem with that is that there's currently an Arisen sitting on the throne, and there can only be one Arisen at the time, and whoever becomes Arisen has claim claim to the throne, so one of us is lying. You meet Brant, chief of the city guard. He starts off really mad at you, being really speculative. But once you're in private, he's like, yo, I actually totally believe you. I know that the queen has gotten a fake Arisen to sit on the throne, but in order to take her down, we gotta have a strategy. So I'm the Arisen, chosen by a dragon, had my heart ripped out. Queen Disa found another guy with a chest wound that claimed to be the Arisen, and they started working together, so he's on the throne until her son Sven becomes of age to sit on the throne. Brant wants to take Queen Disa down because his allegiance is to the Arisen, and I don't know what this has to do with the dragon, but who doesn't want to be king? And that's pretty much the whole beginnings, all right? So number one, there are no main characters. I think I played an hour and a half of this game until I met Brant, and I would argue that he's the only main character in the game, and it's because you get the most quests from him. Outside of that, there is no one that is aught of import. And you might say like, well, Queen Disa and the False Arisen are kind of main characters, right? Spoiler alert, surprise, surprise, at the end of the game, you fight the dragon and the game ends. Queen Disa and the False Arisen story don't end, they just disappear. And I've even looked at their wikis and there's nothing. What happens to them? Once you kill the dragon, it's just solved. You're just the king and you don't see anything that happens to the people that were against you. That's it. This part isn't really a spoiler, but it involves the end of the game. Depending on who you spent the most time with, like the most quote unquote affinity for, that character will appear in the cinematics at the end of the game. And I'm gonna say my guy, I had no fucking idea why he was becoming like a main character at the end of the game. Like I was like, why is this guy, like we've talked twice. There's a decision that you can make where you can like sacrifice them. And I no joke almost did it because I was like, I don't care about this guy. When it comes to the characters being at the right place at the perfect time, I already kind of used the example of my attempted murderer showing up at the right time in Melv, but let me use another example that also kind of pertains with the no context thing. So you sneak into a party at the Queen's castle, and with no context included, the guards are alerted that there's a suspicious person lurking about, and that's me, so I make a dash and I end up in this brothel where the brothel lady in charge is just waiting there for me randomly. She hides me in a room, and then guards walk up to her and say, where's that guy that's clearly hiding in the room behind you? And she, with her charm, tells them to go away.
You are excused.
And they just do. And the next part is ridiculous, which is she comes back inside and then she shows you this peephole, and when you look through it, it just so happens that the fake Arisen is in this room and he's drinking and he's with these two prostitutes and everybody's fully clothed because this is a rated M game, but it's made by Capcom and nude bodies are just crossing a line for some reason. He's just relishing in being the fake king. And while we're looking through this hole, the queen barges in and scolds him.
You would do well to remember that your role demands a certain degree of dignity. I trust you understand your position, Your Majesty.
Nay, as you say.
And he just kind of listens to her and gets sober and leaves. After he leaves, a mysterious masked man comes in and he even reveals his identity.
Lord Phasus.
And we don't know who the fuck it is. I get this was supposed to be a moment. The way this is all acted out in this like 30-second window that I just happened to be looking at the people at this perfect time, it's like, what is this, a fucking play? Also, here's my perfect example of no context. They try to paint Queen Disa as this like evil tyrant, but there's nothing that shows her like evil rule. Like the city's not spiraling into chaos. She seems to be doing pretty fine, and there's no context to show why she's a feared ruler. I think they could have done something cool here. The fake Arisen and her just start working together, and you find out later that the reason he has a scar has like nothing to do with really anything. That could have been a cool context moment, but you just made it a random injury. Like, I think a cool way they could have built up Disa's character is when Brant is originally telling you about her and they have those film grain flashback scenes. If you showed us a scene where she was talking to a young man that has no scar on his chest and she's convincing him to become the False Arisen by tempting him with like royalty and wealth, and he ends up accepting, like, what's there to lose? And she's like, great. And as she leaves the room, she turns and says, oh, by the way, I need to make sure your heart is in this. And then two guards just like grab him and pin him down to a table and start carving into his chest the fake Arisen scar. And it cuts to an exterior of him like screaming into the distance. Like that would have been a cool way to show her power. That would have added context to the reason why the fake Arisen leaves the room right away when she asks. It would show that she has control over him. You meet Disa's son, Sven, while you're snooping around the castle and he's next to be king. But for some reason he just like is a good guy and he sides with you immediately and like hates his mom and wants to stop her plan. Disa's probably doing this for you, little bitch. Probably, I don't know. They don't show one character motivation in this game. What do you even get when you become king besides vague power? I don't even want to be king. I just want to run through the forest and kill creatures. That's what this game's good at. This is terrible at telling a story. And let me just skip to the end. Okay, spoiler alert again. When the dragon finally shows up, it's a long fight between you and the dragon. I killed it, and then you become king. Disa, fake arisen story, completely vanish. Except there's the ghost there that saved you in the beginning. And after you talk to him, the game starts loading, and then it loads you onto the back of the dragon on your way to fight the dragon again. And at this point, I was really pissed.
What? What is this doing? Why am I about to fight this fucking dragon again? Oh. Yep, give me more fucking exposition. I love this. This is very interesting. This dragon's not dull and vapid at all. I just hate this, like, what would you do if you could rule the world? Like, over and over. It's like, I don't care! I don't care. I don't care about any character in this game. I don't care about the world. I don't care about the civilians. I don't care about the NPCs. Nobody has an interesting story. Stop putting me through this fucking wading through dialogue shit. What is this? What is this?
I thought it was a glitch. And then I looked online and everybody's like, yeah, what the hell? That's like a really weird way to do this ending.
Yeah, I beat the game. Why am I fighting the dragon again? I thought this was a glitch. I'm just confused about what the game wants me to do. This whole ending behooves me. This is fucking
This is actually This is the dumbest way to end this game. Apparently you're supposed to like not talk to the ghost and you can get an ending that way, but who's not gonna fucking talk to the ghost? He's a glowing blue guy at the end of this ending. What you're supposed to do is take out the God's Bane sword that you got and stab yourself in the chest, and you'll kill the dragon and yourself, and you guys will fall into the brine.
Man, I have the same terminal velocity as a dragon?
And the brine will like take over the world for a month, and you're passed out during that month. You wake up and the entire world has changed. It looks like Stranger Things Upside Down took over, or like Calamity Ganon was just let loose on all the land. And this would have been really cool if I cared about a single fucking character in this game, like the world has ended. That'd be cool, but I don't care about this world. You might also notice that your main pawn is missing, and you're like, shit, is he dead? And then you get word that he's been in a state of unconsciousness this whole time, and so you go and try to find him, and once you get to him, he's just awake and saying, hey, what's up, man? There's no meaningful cutscene, no like holding hand like, you're gonna be all right, buddy. Nothing. Cool. You basically just have to kill like 3 giant blighted monsters around the world, and then you get the real ending where a dragon absorbs the blight. I also didn't realize this is a different dragon, and it starts talking, and I was like so confused. Also, the dragon's talking. God, you fucking dragons can talk for a while, huh? And I don't know who's talking at this time. Is it the dragon or is it just a voice? Anyway, I end up like skydiving and stabbing this dragon in the heart, and a bunch of clipping goes through my chest, and I guess the developers were like cool with that being center stage of their main ending. And after you do that, the world is saved, the climate is healthy again, and the game just kind of ends. And I was fucking pissed off.
I will not be there to watch it.
I don't know who the f is talking. I don't know. It's just so like, it's so fucking full of itself. It's wild. I'm like pissed because you don't deserve this. You don't deserve the soft piano ending. Oh, get the fuck over yourself. You didn't deserve that at all. You don't deserve this song. Get out of my head. Why is the elf like a fucking main character all of a sudden? When games put in a cutscene and it's like, it seems to be using their in-game engine, but it's like they recorded this at 720p and compressed the fuck out of it. Oh, give me a break. Am I supposed to care about this guy, the fucking insane dude, the hermit on the cave? No, you don't get that. That's fucking bullshit, dude. Capcom, go fuck yourself.
I just think it's wild that they had 12 years to come up with a story. It retold Dragon's Dogma 1, and apparently he says that he's been working on this story for like 20 years. This is what you came up with? Dude, fucking lie. Don't tell people that you made the story. It is worthless. Again, the game has a lot of great features about it. It just doesn't have a story to tell or anything to care about. And I was thinking about it, I'm like, man, if they had added co-op, I would have been like, at least like, well, there's no big story, but at least I have the story of me and my friends running through the forest like we're in the Fellowship of the Ring. And speaking of, I think this whole gameplay loop could have made an awesome Lord of the Rings game. Like running through the forest, chasing a pack of Uruk-hai as different classes, Gimli, Legolas, and Aragorn. Like I love the exploring, and if we were running around the world of Middle-earth, it could have been really sick. Obviously they don't have the rights to Lord of the Rings and stuff, but it could have just been such a great setting. Like I recently just played all of the Two Towers game because I thought I was gonna make a video on the Lord of the Rings games, but I didn't. And those games still kind of hold up, especially the co-op in Return of the King. A co-op Lord of the Rings game like this could have been something else, but it isn't what they made. What they made is a pretty good PS3 game with one of the worst stories I've ever heard. Thanks for watching my video, guys. If you got this far, I appreciate it as always. There's probably gonna be some comments on this video disagreeing with my takes, and I totally welcome it. Let me know what you thought of or think of Dragon's Dogma. Thank you again to OperaGX for sponsoring this video and supporting my channel. Oh, and I gotta show you one more thing. I just woke her up from a nap. But guys, look at this. I got a little kitty named Ruby. This is Ruby. I'm not a big cat person, man, but she has stolen my heart like the heart of the Arisen. She'll probably make a bunch of cameos in future videos, so I'm sure you'll see more of her. All right, thanks guys. I'll see you in the next one.